cycle. They're on a spinning wheel, and it's for that reason. The Christian websites, if you don't hear the refutation, you will continue to think that that's a good argument until someone shows you otherwise. So.
Yeah, I mean, all the arguments that come across. So even when I was phoning with Matt Slick, it's always a runaround. It's always a runaround. Like, to get them to answer, like, is this true or is this not true? How do you know this? How do you not know this? Where's the... Like, it's impossible to get a straight answer. It's always like, well... And the worst thing that I hate coming across is personal experience. Well, that's useless to me. I have no reference for that, and frankly, I don't believe that you had one. And if you actually did hear somebody, that's alarming. That's not something...
And you can disarm them completely by agreeing with them on that point. You can say, okay, right. Yes, I'll give you that one. A positive benefit of religion is that it makes people feel good. Okay? However, making somebody feel good doesn't mean the thing is true.
Right. I was going to move into I wanted to ask you a bunch more questions actually, but actually somebody in the chat had a question for you, and he said, what about that college that was offering degrees in apologetics? I haven't heard of this actually. Have you heard of that?
A college offering degrees in apologetics?
Yeah.
I'm sure there are such, right? I mean, I've not exactly seen the syllabus for Bob Jones University or Liberty University or what have you, but I'm quite sure. But I know that I knew a guy last year. We worked together in carpool a lot, and so but he was a Christian, and he went to ORU and got a theology degree. So I knew, theology degrees, apologetics degrees, yes, I'm quite sure they're out there in quite a few colleges that have a religious, what's the word? I won't say agenda, but they are religious colleges in general.
Yeah, that would be surprising to me, because if it's a university, universities in my mind, and the ones I've only been to one, but they generally settle on things that are more on the scientific academic level, and I'd be surprised if they actually went into apologetics in a literal sense. But I could see them doing it in like a literary appreciation type of sense. Like these type of arguments are made. This is the history of it. And all that. I could see that being offered, but nothing literal.
Well, these would not be state universities, right? Now, I don't know how things are, exactly set up in Canada, but I imagine it's probably similar. You have your publicly funded state universities down here in the States, like University of Texas, right? But then you will have your private universities, and so those folks can set their curriculums, and they can get the same accreditation as the big state colleges do, simply by virtue of the fact that the vast majority of their academics are legitimate, right? So you take history classes, literature, liberal arts, whatever. They offer all that same stuff. But because they're a Christian college, you'll also get this Christian academic track. And now, for example, at the University of Texas, or the big state college down here, we had a fellow, a young kid, a student, back when I was host in the early '80s, last decade, he's a young guy, probably like 20, but he was taking this history of religion course. And so he would come on and just impart some of what he had learned there, and that was an example of a class on religion taught from strictly a historical perspective. And he would say that there were a lot of Christian students and students belonging to the Christian groups, student groups, taking those classes, many of whom were not entirely fond of how the class went, simply because the professor was giving a straightforward historical context, and was not really. I guess they were expecting this whole thing that showed, but there are all these religions, but Christianity turned out to be the awesomest one. Well, it's sort of like, well, here's what Christianity borrowed from this, and then here's what we know about how these particular where these books were written and when they were written and the varying versions of them and what and then here's a version here where a translation really contradicts another, and so they were getting kind of the full. They weren't getting apologetics. They were getting its unblemished religious history, and but a private university, that has something like Oral Roberts in Louisiana. We'll tell it from a straight up theological, seminarian, apologetic, a deeply religious context, right?
Right.
And so, but those kinds of universities, a religious university, there's no reason why they can't get the same sort of accreditation as long as the bulk of their academics is legit. So yeah, I mean, that's probably an environment where I guess the current younger generation of Christians coming up, they're learning some of these apologetic arguments and trying to wield them in online discussion with atheists. Yeah, so yeah.
It's actually good that we're talking about this. It kind of leads into the next question. I caught Matt's lecture. I don't know exactly when he did it. I think not last November, but the one before that.
Yeah, November with that.
With the early Christian writings.
Yeah, that man, that guy's a piece of work.
Oh no! I saw that too. Wow, that guy at the end of the lecture or the debate, if that's what you're talking about.
You're thinking about a different one though.
Yeah, I'm thinking about some, but that one was he went nutty at the end. That's the one where Matt was like, actually, I don't think we could have that beer. Is that the one that you're talking about? And but no, I was talking about he did a lecture and it was on early Christian writings, and I've been looking at that and trying to beef up on my knowledge there, and I'm just wondering what methods were used to determine which books made it. Like, well, they're not really books, more like manuscripts. But what method did the church use at the time? Because like I know I'm just scattered on this because we know there's like the.
Well, Matt might have. I've been reading off and on books like who wrote the Bible, and who wrote the New Testament. Forget the two. Is it Finkelman? Forget the authors' names. I mean, one of them I think is Finkelman, but I think that's wrong. But there's that book. There are a few other books that deal with the early history of the church and of the religion, and but Matt might be a little bit better authority to answer this specifically. But I do know that the very first official canon that appeared is called the Muratorian Canon, and it took something like 200 years of ecclesiastical wrangling and argumentation and debate just to get that agreed upon. And even then, that was not the complete New Testament canon that we now have, right? I mean, Revelation wasn't part of it. I think several of the epistles weren't part of it. And so things still kept being added, and that was a whole large, and the debate always was, well, how can we determine which of these books was divinely inspired and which was not? Now, the process by which they made that distinction, alien to me, but certainly it's that there was so much argument and centuries, right? It took centuries to get a New Testament that everyone could agree upon.
It was like what? It was Marcion that was making the first canon, and then they went and basically stole it from him and killed him or something. I forget the story there, but I think that's the earliest account that I've heard of, and I think I got that from the Atheist Experience. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I was just looking up. I googled a few things, and so there's our the oldest known list of the books in the New Testament. Again, according to the wiki page, was something that dated to about the year 170. Okay. And again, and then of course there are all the apocryphal books, right? Like the Apocalypse of John, or Apocalypse of Peter, what have you. So